Good evening. Today is Sunday, May 31st, 2026. I'm Rich Stevens, and this is The Cold Take. What you're about to hear is news from this week, taken only from primary sources like press conferences and court documents. You can find those sources and attribution for every story at thecoldtake.com. Tonight, we start with some politics, move into world, and then back into politics. President Trump missed Donald Trump Jr.'s wedding last week. In a Truth Social post, Trump said he wanted to be there, but government responsibilities and his love for the United States required him to remain at the White House. 2 days after Trump said he had to stay in Washington, he posted from the Oval Office that he had spoken with leaders from Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, and Bahrain. He said Iran talks were proceeding nicely, but added that it would be a great deal or no deal, meaning, quote, back to the battlefront. On May 27th, the White House posted video of Trump saying Iran was, quote, negotiating on fumes. On May 29th, President Trump laid out terms for a possible Iran agreement after days of public pressure over the Strait of Hormuz and Iran's nuclear program. The White House says Operation Epic Fury began with clear military goals: destroy Iran's missile capability, destroy its navy, cut off its proxy networks, and prevent Iran from ever getting a nuclear weapon. By April 8th, the White House said Iran had agreed to a ceasefire and to reopen the Strait of Hormuz while broader peace talks continued. At Wednesday's cabinet meeting, Trump said Iran wanted a deal, but the U.S. was not yet satisfied. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said diplomacy remained the first option, but Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. Trump said the Strait of Hormuz must stay open to everyone, with no country controlling it. He also ruled out sanctions relief or money for Iran at that stage, and said he would not be comfortable with Russia or China taking Iran's highly enriched uranium. In the Truth Social post, Trump said Iran must agree to no nuclear weapon, immediate unrestricted shipping through Hormuz, removal of remaining mines, and no tolls. He said ships caught in the strait because of the U.S. naval blockade could start heading home, no money would be exchanged until further notice, and he was going to the Situation Room to make a final determination. Back to politics. On Tuesday, May 26th, Texas Republicans used the primary runoffs to push out several familiar names. Attorney General Ken Paxton defeated incumbent Senator John Cornyn by nearly 28 points, ending Cornyn's Senate career after more than 2 decades. In his victory speech, Paxton credited President Trump's endorsement and said Texas had sent a clear message to Washington. Cornyn conceded, said he respected the voters' decision, and said he would support the Republican ticket in November. The Attorney General race produced another major result, with State Senator Mays Middleton defeating Congressman Chip Roy for the Republican nomination to replace Paxton. Roy said he called Middleton to congratulate him. Alabama's congressional redistricting fight is back at the Supreme Court. On May 11th, the court vacated earlier judgments and sent the cases back for reconsideration after its new ruling in Louisiana v. Calais. On May 26th, a 3-judge federal court blocked Alabama from using its 2023 congressional map, saying the plan was tainted by intentional race-based discrimination. The court ordered Alabama to keep using the Special Master Plan, a court-drawn map used in 2024 and in the May 19th primaries. That matters now because the court says the May 19th primaries for Districts 1, 2, 6, and 7 became ineffective after Governor Kay Ivey set special primaries for those districts for August 11th. Alabama went back to the Supreme Court the next day. Attorney General Steve Marshall is asking the court to stay the district court's order and let Alabama use its 2023 map, arguing the lower court ignored Calais and replaced Alabama's map with one that sorts voters by race. The United States filed in support of Alabama. As of now, the Supreme Court has not ruled. Justice Thomas requested responses by 4 p.m. Eastern on June 1st, so unless the court steps in, Alabama's 2026 congressional elections remain on the Special Master Plan. On Wednesday, May 27th, American Federation of Teachers President Randy Weingarten proposed a 10-point education plan for schools in the AI era. The plan calls for no screens, including online assessments for pre-K through second grade unless required for special needs support. It would also ban student-facing AI in elementary schools, require educator supervision for other student-facing AI, and prohibit social companion chatbots for students under 16. Weingarten said she is not calling for an AI ban or a Chromebook bonfire, but for enforceable guardrails and a better balance between technology and student learning. The plan also calls for schools to make active, hands-on learning the norm while strengthening literacy, numeracy, civic engagement, student well-being, privacy protections, academic freedom, and educator control over classroom technology. It would create an independent research consortium to study what works in education, including the effects of screens and AI, without funding from the industries being studied. Weingarten called for more state and federal funding for public schools, opposed vouchers that she says defund public education, and proposed a tech tax on big tech earnings to pay for what she calls the disruption caused by AI and other technology. On Wednesday, May 27th, Governor Ron DeSantis called a special session for Florida lawmakers to consider a constitutional amendment aimed at reducing and eventually eliminating property taxes on homesteads. The plan is called Save Our Homes from Excessive Property Taxes. DeSantis says local government property tax revenue has nearly doubled over 7 years, from $32 billion to $60 billion, and is projected to reach $83 billion by 2032. The filed resolution would raise the homestead exemption to $150,000 in 2027 and $250,000 in 2028. Then it would require lawmakers to set a schedule for full elimination. New Florida residents after January 1st, 2027 would start with a $50,000 exemption and wait 5 years before receiving the full increased exemption. The plan would also limit how counties and cities use remaining property tax revenue, cap future assessment increases on some non-homestead property, and create a state trust fund to help local governments pay for core services. The proposal still has to pass the legislature and then go to the voters. Florida constitutional amendments require at least 60% voter approval. Moving away from politics, in California, a chemical tank emergency in Garden Grove forced evacuations of 40,000 residents across Orange County. Officials said one of 3 tanks holding methyl methacrylate showed signs of failure with vapor releases and a possible explosion risk. Methyl methacrylate is a flammable industrial chemical used in plastics, coatings, and manufacturing. Governor Gavin Newsom declared a state of emergency for Orange County, and President Trump approved federal emergency assistance. By May 27th, the threat of explosion was eliminated, with monitoring showing no chemical leak. At that point, all evacuation orders were lifted and roads reopened. Garden Grove is now collecting impact information from residents and businesses and seeking economic injury assistance for affected businesses. On Wednesday, May 27th, Kenneth Iwamasa was sentenced to 41 months in federal prison for his role in the death of actor Matthew Perry. Federal prosecutors say the live-in assistant obtained and repeatedly injected Perry with ketamine, including the fatal dose in October of 2023. He pleaded guilty to conspiracy to distribute ketamine, resulting in death. Iwamasa had no medical training, was aware of Perry's addiction history, and still gave the injections. On Wednesday, May 27th, Governor Kathy Hochul signed budget legislation authorizing New York City to put speed-limiting devices in vehicles tied to speed camera violations. The program targets owners who receive final decisions on 16 speed camera tickets in a 12-month period. The device is called Intelligent Speed Assistance. Under the law, it restricts a vehicle's speed based on the posted speed limit while still allowing a manual override when necessary for traffic conditions. The order can apply to the vehicle tied to the tickets and, with exceptions, other vehicles owned by the same person. The first installation period is 12 months, but repeat orders can stretch to 24 months, 36 months, or until the city approves removal. Drivers who fail to install the device or tamper with it can face fines from $1,500 to $2,500, as well as registration suspension. Vehicle owners generally pay for installation and maintenance, though the law allows payment plans and waives the cost for owners found financially unable to pay. New York City already uses this technology in municipal vehicles, and city officials say a pilot program reduced speeding by 65%. The signed law now gives New York City a path to move speed limiters from government fleets to private vehicles owned by repeat speed camera offenders. On Wednesday, May 27th, President Trump said TrumpRx.gov had added nearly 1,000 low-cost generics as part of his administration's prescription drug pricing push. The White House says the site now features more than 600 generic medications and lets patients compare cash prices at local pharmacies and through delivery options from private pharmacy programs. TrumpRx launched in February with price reductions on 40 popular branded medications, including Ozempic, Wegovy, Zepbound, fertility drugs, inhalers, and insulin. HHS says manufacturers can sell lower-cost drugs directly to patients when safeguards are met and the drugs are not billed to federal programs. The broader policy is built around most favored nation pricing, which the White House says is meant to bring U.S. prices closer to the lowest prices paid in other developed countries. The administration is also tying drug pricing to tariffs and domestic production, giving tariff relief to companies that enter MFN pricing and onshoring agreements. On Thursday, May 28th, Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket exploded during a hot fire test at Cape Canaveral. The company said all personnel were accounted for following what they categorized as an anomaly. Emergency crews responded and reported no injuries, but warned that launch vehicle debris could wash ashore in public areas over the coming days or weeks. New Glenn is Blue Origin's heavy-lift, reusable rocket, standing more than 320 feet tall and built to carry 45 metric tons to low Earth orbit. The explosion sets back plans for major commercial and government missions, including a planned launch of 48 Amazon LEO satellites and NASA's Blue Moon lunar lander. Video of the explosion shows a total loss of the vehicle and launch site, with images of the steel structure standing but badly mangled. This episode of The Cold Take was scheduled to be brought to you by Blue Origin. However, since that didn't work out, hit like, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends. Somebody's got to help me. In financial news, on Thursday, May 28th, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said his department has prepared for a possible $250 bill featuring President Trump if Congress changes federal law. Current law bars living people from appearing on U.S. currency, but proposed legislation would allow Trump to appear on a $250 anniversary bill, and Treasury would follow the law if Congress passed it. He also announced that the Trump Accounts app is now available on major platforms ahead of its July 4th launch. Nearly 6 million children have been signed up, and Bessent said children born during Trump's administration will receive a $1,000 seed investment from Treasury. He described the program as a financial literacy push meant to create a generation of shareholders. The Trump Accounts app will be the main interface for the program and is now available nationwide. Bessent also said TrumpRx has already saved Americans more than $600 million. I am not a financial advisor, but if you have kids and you don't already have some sort of tax-advantaged investment account set up for them, like a 529 plan, download this app, sign your kids up. It doesn't cost you anything. You can contribute to it, and that money grows tax-free as long as your kids have the account. If your children have been born in the last 2 years, you're going to get $1,000 for free. There's other people, the Michael Dell Foundation and other organizations have also donated money. There is free money on the table for millions of children, and if you have kids, do your kids a favor, get them investing young. They will thank you for it later. Markets rose across the board this week. The Dow Jones picked up 453 points and closed at 51,032. NASDAQ jumped 2.4%, closing at 26,972 after a gain of 629 points. The S&P 500 added 107 points, closing at 75.80. And gold regained some of the last couple of weeks' losses. Futures trading closed up $70 Friday at $4,593 per ounce. And in sports, Sunday, May 24th, Formula One was in Canada, and for the first time this year, it had some interesting moments. Kimi Antonelli won the race, becoming the first F1 driver whose first 4 wins came consecutively. Lewis Hamilton passed Verstappen late after a battle both drivers seemed to enjoy. Hamilton finished second, with Max getting his first podium of the year, bringing the car home in third. Russell did not finish the race and now sits 43 points behind his teammate for the Drivers' Championship. The next race is Monaco on June 7th. On May 21st, the Chicago Bears said they had exhausted every opportunity to stay in Chicago and that there was no viable stadium site left in the city. The team's own stadium page says the Bears plan to build a new fixed-roof stadium in Arlington Heights, where they already own 326 acres. The Bears say Soldier Field no longer has the infrastructure, access, or amenities needed for a modern NFL stadium. The proposed Arlington Heights project would include a stadium and mixed-use district, with the team committing more than $2 billion towards development. The team says the project would create 56,500 construction job years and 9,000 permanent jobs. In the NHL, the Las Vegas Golden Knights swept the Colorado Avalanche in 4 games to advance to the Stanley Cup Finals. In the East, the Hurricanes needed 5 games to defeat the Canadiens. Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals between the Golden Knights and the Hurricanes is June 2nd at 8 p.m. In the NBA, the Knicks swept the Cavs in the Eastern Conference Championship, but in the West, the Spurs needed all 7 games to get past the Oklahoma City Thunder. Game 1 of the NBA Finals is June 3rd at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Finally, in the MLB, the New York Yankees have reeled the Rays back in and sit just 1.5 games back from the lead in the AL East. Atlanta still has a 9.5 game lead over the Phillies in the NL East. The Dodgers are now 4.5 games up on the Padres in the NL West. In the NL Central, the Brewers have a 4-game lead over the Cubs. Jacob Misiorowski, say that 3 times fast, is setting records every time he takes the mound for the Brewers. In Monday's 5-1 win over the Cardinals, he recorded 57 pitches over 100 miles per hour. That's the most by any starter since StatCast started tracking in 2008. 9 of those pitches topped 103 miles an hour, and he struck out 12 and leads the majors with 100 strikeouts in the first 55 games of the season. And like it or not, that's all I've got. This has been The Cold Take. I'm Rich Stevens, screwing up the ending. Take this, give me this. And like it or not, that's what happened. I'm Rich Stevens, and this has been The Cold Take. And for once, I don't feel the need to just slam the rest of that. The news wasn't that bad this week, was it? Take one when you can get it. Happy Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. Seriously, if you haven't seen this kid pitch, I say kid, he's in his 2nd year in the majors. I think he's 24. He hasn't allowed a multi-base hit in his last 5 games, I think going back to April 17th. I don't have time to give you all the stats, but he's throwing faster and harder really than anyone ever. You can argue Nolan Ryan and Randy Johnson, and I will, but different tech. And he doesn't look like he's trying that hard. Watch a Brewers game. You'll thank me.